Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. So there's a question here on forgiveness on Shab-e Barat. The 15th of Sha'ban is known as Shab-e Barat, and there are many hadith narrating the virtues of Shab-e Barat. In one tradition, Aisha radiallahu anha, she reported that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala descends in a manner He knows best on the night occurring in the middle of Sha'ban, and Allah forgives a large number of people, more than the hairs on the sheep of Banu Kalb. Now, Banu Kalb were known for having a very large number of sheep. Therefore, the last sentence of the hadith indicates the big number of people who are forgiven on this night. And there are many other hadith as well, which some of these hadith may suffer some minor technical defects, but when all the hadith are combined together, it does show that this night is a meritorious one, and we can't just ignore it and say that it's baseless, as some modern ulama do. So the night is one of forgiveness, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as the hadith says, forgives a large number of people. Um, so there's a few things with regards to forgiveness on this night. The first is we see many people um, before the 15th night even occurs, um, a day or two, they start sending mass text messages or WhatsApp messages nowadays, asking people for forgiveness and to overlook any mistakes they had made throughout the year. So, in oversight, this all looks good and well, and let's be honest, in a day and age of arrogance and ego where people hardly apologize and accept their mistakes, it's a very big thing, and I have no qualms with that. But my gripe is that this is slowly just becoming a fashion, a trend. How so? Is most of us don't even write our own messages, yeah? We copy and paste from the last sender, sometimes forgetting to delete his or her name. Nowadays, you've got these GIFs, the GIFs, which I just find totally ridiculous. There's no remorse or regret in there. Um, and when forgiveness is sought, we have to be sincere and remorseful. Now, many of you will find this very judgmental and say, oh, how do you know they're not sincere? Because if you copy and paste a message, you can't be very sincere, can it? Um, and you're just forwarding something which is meaningless. And sadly, in this day and age, with the rise of social media, we see this not just in forgiveness texts and in Shab Barat, we see this all year round. Eid messages, which are the same, Ramadan messages, which are the same. Somebody passes away, and people just do an ilwir and forward a previous reply, um, which is meaningless. So sadly, social media has made us very fake, very plastic, very artificial. So I always believe in doing things which make a difference, doing things properly. So asking for forgiveness and apologizing, don't get me wrong, is a very big thing. We all make mistakes. So do I, so do ulama, so do imams and muftiyan kiram. And we have to apologize when it's wrong and sinful, disobedient to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We do tawbah. And if we have wronged a person, we have to ask for forgiveness. So, as good as these texts seem on the surface, we've got to understand is we can't just copy and paste. If you have really wronged somebody, whether it's physical abuse, mental abuse, you've been harsh in your words, you've stolen their money, you've not paid them back, you've abused their rights. And between families, between the spouses, wife and husband, husband to wife, if you feel you've not been a good partner, and then you need to apologize. You can't just send one of these images and gifts across. You basically, first and foremost, I say you leave the whole text scenario out and pick the phone up, be a man, and call them. And if you can visit them, that's even better. Obviously, if they're in close proximity and you can reach them, I'd say do that. If they're in another town or possibly another country, at least call them. Yeah, it's not always a text issue. And I know it's sometimes hard, but we need to muster up the courage and, like I said, do things properly. Because if we don't, and we don't choose these nights like Shab Barat or Ramadan or happy occasions to ask for forgiveness, and a person dies having wronged somebody, hurt somebody, yeah, there's great warnings in Hadith. Yeah, we know Hadith teaches us that the heart of a Muslim is worth more than the Kaaba. And Hadith I always liked to quote is the Hadith of the Muflis. When the Prophet ﷺ, he asked the Sahaba, "Atadruna mal Muflis?" That do you know who is the bankrupt one? So the Sahaba, Ridwanullahi Majma'in, said, the one who doesn't have money or goods. The Prophet ﷺ said, no, verily the bankrupt of my nation are those who come on the day of Qiyamah with salah and sawm and sadaqah, but also with insults, slander, consuming one's wealth, shedding blood, and beating others. So the oppressed will come forward and they will be given his deeds, good deeds. And people will keep taking his good deeds, that he stole my money, he slandered me, he lied to me, shed my blood, until his good deeds run out. And if they run out before the justice is fulfilled, then their sins, the sins of the oppressed, will be cast upon him, and no doubt where will be his final abode? In Jahannam. So this is a hadith about hukukul ibad. A lot of people talk about hukukullah, salah and sawm and zakah and hajj, and verily we should. They are important. If you don't act them out, there will be punishment. But I always say Allah can forgive them very quickly. He is Arhamur Rahimeen. As for the people, including myself, I am not Arhamur Rahimeen. I am not the most merciful. If somebody wronged me on Qiyamah, I may take revenge if they didn't ask for forgiveness. And most humans and most Muslims are the same. We are not Arhamur Rahimeen. We are not the most merciful. I.e., Hukukul Ibad won't be forgiven. So you can't just forward somebody a text message when you owe them thousands of pounds. You can't just forward somebody a text message when you've beaten them up, or um, you're beating your wife up and you text your in-laws, "Oh, forgive me for being such a bad son-in-law." Islam doesn't work that way. So my point is, let's stop these meaningless broadcasts, pick up the phone, ask for forgiveness, and definitely forgiveness is a very great thing. As they say, to err is human and to forgive is divine. So we should also forgive people as well. As a last point, if somebody asks you for forgiveness, you shouldn't be so stubborn and rigid about it. You should also ask, you should also forgive them. And don't split hairs and make it a big issue, because shaitan will get involved. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us the ability to make the most of this night. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, first and foremost, grant us all forgiveness and give us the ability to ask others for forgiveness. Jazakallah khairan.